I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Public Safety Commission meeting for the City of Desert Hot Springs, January 9th, 2025, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'd like to welcome everybody up and a Happy New Year to everyone present and watching. Mr. City Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mitchell,
Present.
Commissioner Lozano,
Present.
Commissioner Rizzio,
Present.
Vice Chair Cross,
Present.
and Chair Mitchell.
Present. Commissioner Mitchell, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could ask everyone to remain standing just for a moment.
Yes.
We're all aware of the tragedy that has taken place 100 miles west of us in the city and county of Los Angeles, and I would like to take a moment to consider what they're going through, to recognize the lives that were lost and the personnel that are placing their lives on the line to prevent further loss of life and further loss of property. As a firefighter myself, I take this disaster a bit personally, because when someone loses their life in a fire disaster, we view it as a breakdown in the defense. That may not be the case out in Los Angeles, but nevertheless, it's very disturbing, very upsetting. So if we could observe a moment of silence in respect to those that are working and those that are no longer with us, and for a safe outcome and denouement to this tragedy. Thank you all. You may be seated. Okay. Have my fellow commissioners had the opportunity to review the agenda for this evening?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If there's not, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Subsequently, have we had the opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting? It was quite an extensive meeting from November 14th. Go ahead, Chance. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting.
All right, I make a motion to approve the,
I'll second.
Motion and second have been made. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
The motion passes with Commissioner Mitchell abstained.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see anyone in the gallery, so I'm presuming there's no public comment, so I will go ahead and bypass the admonition for that reason. As for new business, we had a discussion agendized regarding Cholla Drive and the safety concerns. I did receive notification from staff that there's some resolution to that, but that doesn't mean we can't discuss it. So I know that there was some exploration with regards to Cholla Drive. I believe it's between Hacienda and Two Bunch Palms, that it was brought up at the last meeting. A gentleman said that he believed that it was a public safety hazard. And myself and Commissioner Rizzio went out and took a look at the block in question. And I'd like to hear Mr. Rizzio discuss the findings that we made and what we looked over, and just to edify our fellow commissioners and the and the people present here.
Well, there was a resident. Sorry, there was a resident, Michael Bretz, that came to our last meeting and expressed his concern about the width of the road, Cholla Drive, between Hacienda and Two Bunch Palms Trail.
Mhm.
And I use that for a shortcut, and that's a pretty narrow road. And they're also concerned about no sidewalks and inadequate lighting. So, as he said, the chairman and I went out and checked it out and measured it, and the road's 22 feet. It needs to be 44 feet in order to accommodate the traffic. So we concluded that we would follow up on it and advocate for the resident. So I contacted Engineer Porras, and we discussed it on the phone, and he went ahead and put it on their agenda to get that agendized with the park project, to see if because that's going to end up obscuring traffic going into the park and going in and out that narrow drive. There's going to be more traffic involved. So it's going to be more of a safety issue. So now they're going to put that in, and hopefully that'll get taken care of through the park budget.
I understand, I see Mr. Porras is in the building tonight.
Oh, perfect.
You know, Happy New Year to you. Do you have
Thank you.
anything to add on what Commissioner Riggio
Yeah, I can
said?
give you guys a little bit of kind of history. So development happens in different phases, right? So just to kind of explain it, a new developer comes in or a new project comes in, and a standard development requirements, you build your portion of your project and any impacts the project has. That residential development there, Cholla between Two Bunch and Hacienda, was built probably by the county a long time ago. They built half width, which was standard. It's standard for development, but it's 22 feet, like you were saying, which two vehicles barely fit, which that causes a bit of a hazard, right? And then there's no way for anybody to park on the street if there's for those residents there. If they do park, then you have to go around them. I think we've all driven it, and it is a half-width street. The intention was that the developer from the other side at one point will build the other half. We did an assessment of the city, and I believe we have about 14 different areas that are very similar. But this is one that obviously we've noticed, and with the design of the Courtyard Park project that's going to go on the corner of Cholla and Hacienda, how do we access a park? So it's going to be Hacienda, most likely it's going to be Cholla to go to Two Bunch. Or you go up to Pearson on Cholla. So we did get some engineering design work. We are actually complete with the engineering design work. What we're doing now is finalizing the funding. The park itself, we secured $5 million for the park. The park right now is estimated about $6 million. The streets will cost a little bit over between $1 and $3 million. So streets are going to cost almost as much as a park. So we want to be as efficient as possible with the financing of it. There is a couple of grants that are coming up in February. So we plan on applying those to hopefully build out the entire street, curb gutter, sidewalk, and street lights, at least enough to have 2 lanes and a center divider, or 2 lanes and enough area for one vehicle to park on one side. So like I explained to our commissioners, we have noticed it is on our radar, and thank you for bringing it up, and we are going to address it. We plan to start the construction of the Courtyard Park this summer of this year. So that's when all of it will be constructed, or hopefully all of it will be started. It will take about 1.5 years to build completely the construction. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll see some improvements along that street. But we definitely take note of it, that it is a 22-foot road, and it should be about 40 feet. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions for Mr. Porras on this subject? No?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I did have one question, because it was also brought up, and I don't know whether this is the purview of the Public Safety Commission, probably more appropriate for the Planning Commission to address. We did notice when we were doing our research out there that it doesn't appear that there's the residences on that street have access to natural gas. A lot of them are on propane. And I did also notice that in the center of the block between Cholla and between Hacienda and Two Bunch, the area where we're discussing, there was what's known in the vernacular of the fire service as a wharf head fire hydrant. And I understand the NFPA recommends that the minimum fire flow for residential areas is 1,000 gallons a minute, which you're not going to get out of a wharf head hydrant. And I noticed that there were fire hydrants at either end at the intersection of Cholla and Hacienda and Cholla and Two Bunch Palms that do have that capability. Just by the shape of the hydrant, I can identify how much the fire flow is. And I was wondering if if the plans that you're discussing would include moving a hydrant and, adjusting the main accordingly so that fire flows in the center of the block rather than having the engines having to lay in and bring that fire flow to the middle of the block.
So the gas company question first, all right? So I'll take that one first.
Go
So
ahead.
we do have propane tanks outside. I noticed that too. There is most likely no gas line directly in front or near those homes. That's why it is propane. I am not sure what the ultimate or CIP schedule for the gas company to build any lines on that area, but we could do an inquiry to find out when they will. The one issue there is on the west side of that street is conservation land now. So there won't be any new development there, which before, probably when it was county, there was planned development. The idea I'm guessing, is that they were waiting for new development to come in to put a new gas line and probably fix the fire hydrants, fix everything. So the gas company, I can find out if they do have plans to doing any lines there that would help the residents connect to the actual natural gas. The hydrants, I have not taken a look at them, but I will definitely take a look at them, get with our fire department to figure out how we can address it. Any relocations will be part of the project, and any new installations, we'll definitely try to include them. I just don't know the extent of the work, so. But thank you for noting that. We'll definitely talk to our fire department to figure that out.
Thank you for noting that, and we're looking forward to finding out what happens with that stretch. Any other questions from the commissioners? All right, well, I thank Mr. Porras for his attendance at the meeting tonight and explaining exactly what's going on with that.
Perfect, and thank you. Just one more, Chair. If you guys have any questions, or audience have any questions regarding street work or projects, you're welcome to reach me at any time. We're available. Just you can come to the counter. My name is Danny Porras, and I'll help you, I guess, hopefully answer some of these questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, once again, we do appreciate it. Anything else? None? Okay, go ahead.
I'm just always curious, like, why did this take so long? I mean, why is it just being noticed? Why isn't it corrected a long time ago? I mean, we have a street, can't even think of the name, is it Mesquite up Mission Lakes Boulevard to the end? It's only one lane too, for years and years and years. And why doesn't anything get done?
I don't make those decisions, so I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that. Yeah, we just build everything that we have planned for our CIP. Everything gets placed on there by priority or by funding. So if there's no funding, there's nothing there. If there's no priorities, there's nothing there. Fortunately, this does have funding and does have priority, so.
By whom?
By whom, too? I'm sorry.
Who makes this decision?
So annually, we do have a capital improvement plan that gets approved by city council, and we do lay out whatever projects are coming for that year and the next 3 years up to 5 years. So we identify different projects there and prioritize which ones we do have funding, which ones we don't have funding for. There is a lot of street work that needs to be done and has to be done. We do see it. Unfortunately, we can't build everything just at once. It would be extremely expensive to do all that. So we do have to prioritize different areas. This is one priority that we do have as part of the next project.
I don't know whose project this is, but as you come into the city on Palm Drive, the round Desert Hot Springs architecture thing, are you in charge or part of that? Because it's not lit up anymore. It's amazing how it's such a beautiful piece of structure, which should be even a little bit lifted to be seen better. Why isn't it on, the light?
So we'll check on that. I believe when the gas station went in, we turned off the lights, at least for that one, because they were doing construction for it, from what I understand. It also, we were adjusting all the lights for the palm trees on that side, so I'll confirm that it's working.
Please, thank you. That's it.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thanks again, Mr. Porras,
Thank you.
for the information and for the direction. We will move to the Animal Control Monthly Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. So for the month of December, we had 65 intakes, 15 returned to owner, 8 sent to rescue, 13 adoptions, 0 sent to CVAC. We had 25 animals sent to the vet, 16 DOAs. We had 2 euthanized, 44 licenses issued, 29 administrative citations issued, and 38 warning citations issued. and then a total of 351 calls for service. Any questions?
Any questions for animal control?
When you euthanize, is it by the approval of the owner or your decision?
It's generally at the decision of a veterinarian. It's
I mean,
more often than not, it's an animal that's been hit by a car or is in such disrepair because of whatever reason. But if there is an owner, then yes, it's definitely up to the owner, if we can find them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You do a good job. It's a hard job.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I guess, because this has been brought to my attention by several citizens, I always get asked the question, and I don't think there's an answer to it. You know, they always ask me, how come there's so many stray dogs running through the city, running through the desert? I see them from time to time. Some of them are, you know, I tell them, well, a lot of times it's on county land, some of city land, especially when you get to the desert areas, it's kind of hard to determine. But a couple of people did point out to me that they just see a lot of stray dogs around the city. And I tell them, you know, to call animal control when they see them. But of course, dogs aren't stationary.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to.
Well, it's not so much even the actually catching them. You know, catching them is the easy part, believe it or not. But then you have to look at what do you do with them. And so we have to meter how many stray dogs we can actually pick up. You know, a lot of that onus has to go back on the owner of the dog. And we have a lot of folks who feel quite easy with just letting their dogs run around. And despite multiple citations or counselings or whatever word you want to use, they continue to just let their dogs run in disarray. You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Actually, it's in my neighborhood or wherever. There's a dog that cries all night long, every single night. And I can't place where it is. It sounds like it's on the other block. What do I do? How can I say be there at 8 o'clock and it's all night long it cries? That's so cruel. I can't believe that someone.
Yeah.
Is that a citation?
Sure. Yeah, it's a welfare thing, but you know, it's a matter of zeroing in on exactly where it's at. Maybe speak with one of your neighbors. If we can get an address, we'll certainly go out and speak with them. But it falls back on Commissioner Mitchell's question with regard to the loose dogs.
Right.
You know, it's just someone caring for that animal, hearing it crying. You would wonder how they can be oblivious to it, but there's a lot of them out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I just had one very brief question. When you take an animal to the vet, you know, are we contracting to a vet in mind, or do we have a vet on staff? Or
We do not have a vet on staff. We take it where it's available. Some of our local VCAs have curtailed some of their hours, so we're now using the urgent care of the desert off of Cook Street. Depending on what exactly we're being done, we're using services out of Joshua Tree with Animal Action League, wherever we can do it the most economical.
okay, that was my next question. Was
Right.
the economics of it?
Yes, sir.
You know, which is the most efficient as far as
Correct.
where we can take, and well, also the humane concern.
Right.
You know, we don't want to, you know, have to transport an animal 25 miles just to save money if its life is in danger. So.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, until the Desert Hot Springs Animal or the vet center gets reopened, there's nothing close.
Indeed. Do we have any more information on that?
That would be a question maybe for Deputy Chief that can maybe answer that.
All right, very well. Thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
Code compliance report, please.
Good evening. So for December of 2024, code compliance received a total of 35 service requests. We performed a total of 224 inspections, and we issued 54 notices of violations, along with 17 citations that totaled $28,400. The Desert Hot Springs Set Team, or the HOT Team, in an effort to improve the community and enhance our city's main thoroughfares, conducted a commercial vacant lot cleanup as well as 4 residential lot cleanups. All of these lots we ended up obtaining a 602 no trespassing order against them, and we installed no trespassing signages. Officer Brock opened a case for a single-family home on Avenue Dorado. The violations involved trash, junk, and outdoor storage in the front yard. The property owner made slow and steady pace, but eventually she was able to resolve these outstanding violations and bring the property into compliance. Officer Brock also gained compliance for a property on Sunset with similar violations. This one was a lot more rapid. There was no citations involved in that one. She just issued notices of violations and worked closely with the property owner in order to obtain compliance for that one. And then our abandoned vehicle abatement officer, Officer Chafin, she towed 4 inoperable vehicles from a private property after obtaining a warrant from the courts. The vehicles were left parked and dismantled, created a visual blight for the surrounding neighborhood. I've provided some before and after photos of each of those cases for you guys to review. And that'll conclude my report.
All right, thank you. Questions for code compliance?
When you guys get calls like this that have all this stuff around the yard, and it looks to me like, are they disabled people in the homes mainly, or?
Sometimes it's disabled people, sometimes it's someone getting evicted, so they start throwing stuff in their yard, stuff they want to get rid of. Sometimes it's just bad property maintenance by the tenant.
Okay.
When it does come down to like a disabled person or something that we know we do have resources out there that can help them with the cleanup, we do reach out and try to help them with those resources.
Oh, good. That's what I was getting at, to see if you had that available. Thank you.
That was basically what I was going to ask as well, yeah. Thank you. Hard job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. Again, when I'm talking to friends who live in the city or other citizens, again, people don't know the difference between what's county, what's the DHS, and also along Palm on the right-hand side, that's Cathedral City. So how do we, when people see things, and because a lot of times people say, when I'm coming to Desert Hot Springs, there's a lot of trash. And I say, well, where is it? Oh, no, that's DHS. So how do we interact with the county and I mean, that's Cathedral City. So how do we interact with the county and Cathedral City when there are blighted areas on those properties? Can they report it to the city, and then the city will report it to Cathedral City or the county?
Yeah, so absolutely. In the past, we have collaborated with Cathedral City and with the county to perform cleanups along that, like chain link fencing out there is probably what you're speaking of out there. We have collaborated with them to do cleanups out there. We also have our set team or our hot team. They go out there every single morning to clean up both sides of the property. Now, they're not doing a detailed cleanup sweep of every little piece of trash they find. They're not pulling everything off that fencing that's on the county side. But when we do see that it starts to get a little egregious out there, we do partner up with the county and let them know that they have a job to do, just like we have a job to do. They need to come out and clean this property. Or if it does happen to fall on the Cathedral City side, which is, I believe, everything south of Varner, we will reach out to them and let them know, you got an RV sitting out here, or you have somebody dump some couches out here that we can't get to, so this way they can come in and do their job as well as just like we do our job. But we have no problem. If you report it over to us, we can get that over to them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Again, just one brief question. I see when you when you tow abandoned vehicles, I'm presuming that the vehicles, the fluids inside of them are they taken out as well, or is the vehicle just taken and disposed of as a whole, and the fluids, the coolant, the oil, the transmission fluid, some of those, need to be disposed of as hazardous waste? Is that assumed to be a part of the vehicle where there's no separation, or do you actually have to exsanguinate the vehicle, so to speak?
So when a vehicle is towed through the county, well, it's the county's AVA program that we participate in. That vehicle can't be picked up by the property owner. If we're going out there and we are towing it under that program, as like we got a warrant for it, or the property owner voluntarily surrendered the vehicle to us, that's given over to the tow yards, and the tow yards are held under strict regulations to have these fluids drained under the county's environmental health group. So that's why it would all need to be drained. They have a lot of restrictions on their side, and they have a lot of inspections. Any tow yards that are taking vehicles, they have a lot of homework to do to make sure they're keeping up with their codes, and they get a lot of inspections.
I see. Okay, all right, well, thank you for that. That's interesting. Any further questions for code compliance this time? Okay, thanks again, I appreciate it. Well, because of circumstances, our fire department representative is not here. So we can peruse the fire department report at our own volition. If there's any comments or questions on that, we'll go ahead and bring those up. And if there are no comments or questions, we will go ahead and move to the police department report.
Well, the only thing that I would like to bring up at this time, that I had a question for the fire chief, was the condition of our fire hydrants throughout the city. Pressure testing, do we have GPS locations? Do we have records of pressure testing being done? Do we have all that stuff in the city for the fire hydrants?
I would hold that for the fire official.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my question for tonight.
Well, I can answer that question based on my own experience. In the beginning, the fire department itself would test the hydrants, which made sense because we were the ones that would have to use them. We
Right.
wanted to make sure that the caps would come off, that you could actually charge and get pressure out of those hydrants and be able to deliver the fire flow as is required in the NFPA standards and just with common sense. We want to be able to get water out of those things. Later on in my career, the water department took over the testing. We had two, because we had two different cities for the bulk of my career. They were concerned that we weren't, that we wouldn't be testing the hydrants efficiently and correctly. We'd shut them off and cause water hammer throughout the pipes. That never happened, but they were concerned about it. So they took over, the water department, the testing of the hydrants and the certification, and they would provide us with the literature saying that these hydrants are certified. And if you go to any fire station, you'll look at a map of the streets, and the map of the street would be on the wall. You'll see little red dots that are on the streets, and those dots represent the location of the hydrants. Now, not always are the hydrants, they're not always classified on the map. Like as we went down and looked at the block of Cholla we were talking about earlier, you would just see three red dots. One red dot at the Hacienda Cholla. You'd see the red dot in the middle of that block. You see a red dot at the end of that block. They wouldn't differentiate and say, oh, this is a wharf head. This one you only get 800 gallons a minute out of, and these two you can get 2,000 gallons a minute out of. You just have a hydrants. So we would depend on ourselves to go out and do the reconnaissance. We call it area familiarization, and we would go out and we take a look at the hydrant, and on occasion, it's even better if we had an engineer that we wanted to train, we'd take the engine out, hook up to the hydrant, and work with the new engineer and show him what it means to have static pressure, residual pressure, what this hydrant can deliver, the difference between draft and atmospheric pressure and those sorts of things. So that's usually what happens when they do it. I don't know. We'll have to go ahead and get the absolute correct answer from fire even when they come back.
Well, I'd like to get an answer before the next meeting. Is there any way, maybe Porras has it, maybe Engineer Porras has it?
Yeah, he might. That seems, I
Because
don't know
we're
if
in
that's his purview.
The state's in disarray condition with fire hydrants. because they're not able to put fire. It's not because of the low pressure, there's nothing.
Yeah, some hydrants,
And that tells
That's
me, in
true.
my experience, that that's lack of maintenance and inspection and upkeep.
yeah, the fire chief should have the information on the, not just the hydrants themselves, but where their water sources are.
Right.
You know, where they get their water from. You know, the size of the mains in the street, you know, how they're supplied, which are what we call dead-end hydrants, you know, that are only fed from one
Right.
direction versus continuous fed hydrants on that side. I'm pretty sure he has that information. So if we can get in touch with him by next meeting, he
I'll
should
send
be
him
able
a
to give
text.
to him. Yeah.
Okay.
We've been in contact with him on other subjects. So
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll be
Easy to work with.
easy to work with. He'll give us that
Okay,
information.
great, thank you.
Sure.
Sure, being a complete layperson, I mean, I thought a fire hydrant was, you know, water forever, and it's the same pressure, but it is not. And it doesn't come from the same places, and it does run out. See, I'm not,
Yeah, it depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on, you know, how we in Desert Hot Springs would have to have, we have a certain system, and it could be fed by tanks up in the hill. You'll have water that's pumped up into the tank, and then the gravity will bring the water down to the hydrant. Sometimes the hydrants are supplied directly from a pump, you know, and there are hydrants of different sizes because there's different mains. You know, some streets may have a 12 to 16-inch main feeding the hydrant, which is quite a bit of water, you know, and then you'll have another street that may have a 6-inch main, which is really not much water at all. They're supposed to be able to provide, according, the NFPA standard is the standard that governs what hydrants are supposed to be able to supply as far as fire flow conditions. In areas where you have single-family dwellings, a single-family dwelling is supposed to be able to have a hydrant nearby that can flow at least 1,000 gallons a minute. Okay, that's a pretty significant amount of water, especially when you consider that, you know, one gallon of water is about 8 1/3 pounds. So 1,000 gallons a minute, that's about 4 tons of water every minute is being applied.
We have to
that.
also consider the diameter of the pipe that's carrying the water too. So if it's big and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it's feeding so much pressure to so many outlets. I mean, that big pipe can be depleted as well if all the outlets are running at the same time.
correct.
Sure, and they're experiencing that out in
Yeah.
the situation, the unfortunate situation in Los Angeles. But, again, the fire chief has the detailed information as to, you know, what the pressures are. If you look at a fire hydrant, oftentimes they'll have different colors. You know, an orange hydrant versus a red hydrant versus a blue hydrant. Those are all indications about how much water you can get out of them. And that is actually a result of what happened at the Oakland Berkeley Hills fire in 1991. Because there were different hydrants with different pressures, and the firefighters couldn't visually identify which ones would give them the water supply. So one of the changes in the law from that disaster was that the hydrants would all have different colored bonnets. So as a fire engine comes up, it says, oh, I know what I can get out of that hydrant. And I can use that hydrant to fight a fire.
Is it the same size hose for every hydrant?
It depends. Some engines use larger diameter hose as supply lines.
Oh,
They'll use 4 to 5 inch hose as supply lines.
What, you mean the line supplying the hydrant?
Or do you mean the
yeah,
hydrant's
when you
the size?
hook it into the hydrant to get the water.
Oh, no, yeah, like, it
Yeah, there's
depends.
different sizes.
2-inch, there's 2.5.
There's the 2.5-inch ports, and then
Wow.
there's the 4 or 5-inch ports.
Has a hard line.
Those are the ones that give you the most water, the largest. We're always told to take the largest connection to get the most water out. And remember, it's simple mathematics, well, maybe not simple, but mathematics isn't always simple. But if you double the diameter of the pipe, say you have a 4-inch main versus an 8-inch main, you double the diameter, that's 4 times the water. If you triple the diameter, say you go from 4 to 12, that's 9 times as much water. And if you quadruple the diameter, go from 4 to 16-inch, now you've got 16 times the water. So you can actually get, just by what appears on the surface to be an innocuous change in size, is actually very significant as far as the water supply is concerned.
I hope I never have to find out.
Amen.
Thank you, I had no idea. Thank you.
Any further questions on that subject? I'm sure you're tired of hearing my mouth. Let Chief Shaw speak with the police report, please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. So just some quick stats for the end of the year. I'm going to give you some year-end stats, and then what we're doing right now is we're working on our annual report. So February is probably a little bit too soon since we only meet once a month, but either February or March, I'll have a more comprehensive report for you that we can really look over the comparison between 2024 and 2023 and how we did and everything. But we finished up the year, calls for service, 37,670. So yeah, a lot of calls. Just under 1,938 arrests for the year and 2,415 citations. So the officers are keeping extremely busy, both in the calls for service and in their proactive work. Our crime stats for the month of December, normally we see those drop a little bit for that month, and we saw the same thing this year as we've seen in past years. Nothing significant on our crime stats. The one big one is our homicides for the year. We finished with 3 homicides. 1 homicide's too many, but it's been at least over 5 years since we've had it at 3. We've been averaging 5 to 6 a year over the last 5 years, so it's great to see that decrease, and hopefully we'll keep that going in 2025. And then if you notice, when you're looking at the citations for the month of December, we had a huge uptick in citations. We issued 329 citations for the month of December, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm sure you are all aware, is we had some pretty significant collisions, specifically on Palm Drive in November, December. And that prompted a couple things. It prompted some extra enforcement that we put out there. And so we utilized officers working overtime. We utilized our Office of Traffic Safety grant to be able to put extra officers out there specifically to deal with the traffic enforcement, and specifically along Palm Drive. We all travel Palm Drive. We know there's issues in Palm Drive, and we were talking earlier about the different jurisdictions that own a piece of Palm Drive, which makes it even more challenging in getting some different engineering done out there. So we've put out some public safety information both on the news and through social media to remind folks. A couple things for folks: drive responsibly. At the end of the day, it's each and every person's responsibility to drive responsible. We all have a driver's license. We've all heard it before. A driver's license is not a right, it's a privilege, and treat it that way, and treat your fellow motorists with respect and courtesy. Speeding and cutting lanes and stuff like that to get someplace faster, it never works. We see that happen, and then we get down to the next signal, and that car that did that in front of you is waiting at that red light, and so it never works. So, but there are measures that are being taken on Palm Drive to make it safer. A lot of it's engineering stuff. We have a long stretch of roadway. It's a straight roadway. It needs some additional lighting. It's open for both north and southbound traffic. There's no center barrier for safety for oncoming traffic, and that's how we saw a couple of our accidents. And then you have some streets that are crossing and trying to cross over Palm Drive that are coming from like 20th and that type of stuff that have no controls, no signalized controls and stuff. So what we just ask folks is just remind folks, please just slow down, look where you're going, leave a couple minutes early. Again, we want to get you there safely, and it doesn't do you any good if you injure yourself or somebody else on the roadway. But we also, through our Office of Traffic Safety grant, we were able to purchase a speed radar trailer. You might have seen it out on Palm Drive. We also put that information out on social media. So we have a brand new speed radar trailer. We haven't had one for several years. We had an old one and it broke down, and then we just couldn't repair it anymore. So we were able to use funding through the OTS grant to buy a new radar trailer. It lets you know, we set the speed of that particular roadway, so we move it around wherever we want to move it. We set the speed of that particular roadway, and if you go over that speed, it's going to light up. It's going to tell you to slow down, and then it's got some emergency red and blue lights on it. They're going to flash up to get your attention to slow down. We don't do citations or anything like that. This is just strictly notifying you, educating the public, and reminding you to slow down. But a nice thing with that speed trailer, though, is we can pull data from that. So whether we have a complaint or we need to know, hey, what's been going on a particular roadway, we can pull data for an hour, 12 hours, 24 hours, whatever we need. It's going to give us hour by hour the average speed of vehicles coming in that area, and then we can use that data to help us determine where to best put our resources and our live human body resources and do some enforcement and stuff. So, and then the engineering on the roadway, the city, it is in works. There is plans for signal light. I believe it's at 20th and Palm that's going to be going in. There's some plans for some sidewalks and then center item improvements for safety and stuff. So those things, Assistant City Manager Porras was here earlier talking about those projects, those CIP projects, and that one is at the top of the list, and they have identified grant funding for that. So I believe in 2025 we'll see some of those projects going there to help improve the engineering safety aspect part of it on Palm Drive there. So we'll keep working on that. We will do our part. Unfortunately, our part is the enforcement part mostly. So if you don't want to see us, then do your part, slow down, be respectful, look out for each other on the roadway, and let's be safe for everybody, and let's be that community that sets a standard on how to drive safety for their community. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Chair, can I add a little more to that, just Palm Drive? I'm listening to over here in my office this way.
Go ahead.
So just so you guys give you an update from engineering side, we have two projects that are coming on Palm Drive. They're the same project broken down to two of them. So one of them is the traffic signal at Palm and 20th. That traffic signal is in design. We have half of it's in the city, half is in the county. We have plans that are going to the state because it is a state construction funded. They are receiving them and reviewing them and hopefully approving them by May is what we were told. As soon as we approve them in May, we go to construction or we go to RFP. So we should be in construction sometime in the summer for that traffic signal at Palm and 20th. The other improvement project is a Palm Drive. It's brand new curb, brand new gutters, brand new streetlights. 139 streetlights actually going to go all the way down. The road is going to be resurfaced and new striping from Camino Aventura all the way down to the freeway. So Palm Drive, both sides will have brand new curb, brand new sidewalks, and the asphalt will be rehabbed and striping all the way brand new going down to the freeway. We hope with those engineering improvements and some of the streetlights and some of the enforcement that the PD is doing will hopefully relieve some of the accidents that are happening along that stretch of road. But it has been a project they've been working on for a while. Unfortunately, it does take a while because we have multiple agencies. We have the city, the county, Cathedral City, and it's state funded through 3 different sources, and each one has to review and approve it and follow their rules. So it does take a little bit, but we are expecting to begin this summer both of those projects. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for either gentleman?
Yeah, I have a question for
Yeah.
Assistant Manager Porras. On that Palm Drive project, taking into consideration all the accidents that happened down there, is there anything being done to lock in that center divider, maybe put a median in there, an island or something to prevent people from doing U-turns? Because I've seen people get T-boned by doing that. I
Yeah,
saw somebody get killed right in front of me.
right. So we are doing some traffic light measures, shortening the lane widths just so it doesn't feel like a freeway. We are putting obviously additional striping. We're using a new thicker striping, and it'll be about 8 inches, so it does be a little bit brighter. Reflectors everywhere. We talked to the county, since it's both the city and the county. We have to get approved from both agencies about either putting a raised curb, even if it's not a median. There's pros and cons to that. We talked about putting maybe reflectors, but then we have a maintenance to that. So we are analyzing what we can do to prevent people from either entering too early or too late and trying to do U-turns, because I've seen it too. But yeah, we are definitely looking into that as well.
Any other questions for either the chief or for Mr. Porras?
I have one question for Chief Shaw. This is kind of a loaded one, and it might be a little difficult to answer, so I understand that. But I believe it was November 30th. I was at the Chevron here in town, and I had to do chest compressions on someone overdosing on fentanyl. And I don't want to go too into detail, but they were turning blue. They were going to cardiac arrest, and I got them up and coughing. And I'd estimate they probably took about 10 minutes for paramedics to get there, which was kind of shocking to me. It was very stressful. And I'm certain it's not policy, right? I know it's not policy, but would it be kind of a common phenomenon for these calls to be like a lower priority just given their nature, given, that it might be frustrating to deal with unhoused people, overdosing pretty often. So yeah, I was just asking about like call times for incidents like that.
Sure. No, I'm going to show you both on the PD side and the fire side. Those are their highest priority calls, especially if it's someone not breathing or someone with heart pain, that type of thing. Those automatically go to the front of the line. So yeah, we don't prioritize them, whether it's homeless, on homeless, or anything like that. When there's someone's life is in jeopardy, known injury or suspected injury, those automatically go to the front, and those become a priority call for both the police and fire.
Okay, thank you. That was all. I was just kind of curious about that. Yeah.
Were you there at that time, or what happened?
Yeah, I had to do CPR on them. They were going into cardiac
Were you
arrest.
just there? I mean,
Yeah, I was just grabbing an energy drink at the Chevron. Yeah.
good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, I commend you as well.
Yes.
And, well, I would echo what the chief said. I believe any call that where human life is in jeopardy automatically becomes, they could call it priority one, you call it code 3, there's all kinds of nomenclature for it. But that is definitely the priority for the respondent. And there's any one of a number of reasons why, if it did in fact take 10 minutes for first responders to get on scene, there could be, the nearest engine could be on another call, so you're getting a call from farther out. The police could be on another call, so they have to respond from a different area. There's all kinds of variables that go into it. It's not a matter of I don't think it's ever a matter of them saying, well, this person's life is not viable, or, we're going to take our time because this is irregular or anything like that. It's more likely that the resource normally that would be, less than 10 minutes away. We try to get there within 4 to 6 minutes, but we were always taught, we were CPR, 4 to 6 minutes is the window that you want to get in. I think the American Heart Association still teaches that. But no, that's probably the explanation for it. I don't know that for a fact, so I can't sit in front of a jury and say, this is why it took them 10 minutes, but it's not because of them considering that one life versus another. If it's anyone's life, they're going to roll as fast as they can.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure it's something you have a lot of experience too with.
Indeed.
And I don't want to talk bad about anyone. I was just
Something
that's of course concerning to me.
It's a legitimate question, and then people have to. That's why sometimes we were getting the dispatchers, and there's actually a process that when a call comes in from the field, a call has to be triaged. Many times a dispatcher will actually teach you or work with you as you do your CPR. They'll do it over the phone, and they metronome for you, which they want to make you're doing the compressions at the certain frequency. They make sure you're doing it at the proper depth and things. This is all part of EMD and things like that. But if there's and of course, as an emergency responder, there's also a phenomenon known as time dilation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I of course considered that
Yeah.
too. So.
Yeah, so, just to echo what Chief Shaw said, and I'm sure that there's probably an explanation along the lines of something else was going on and they had to respond at a longer distance. That's what I'm going to go with. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
And I'm going to say that the dispatchers are wonderful as well. They know what to say, how to say it, what to do, and it just amazes me.
Well, dispatch has come a long way, and so has response.
Yes.
As someone who's been hit by a car before and just yanked up under the shoulders and thrown in the back of the ambulance,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore. The emergency room comes to you, and the emergency personnel,
Right.
from law enforcement all the way up through fire and all the way up to the emergency. It's a seamless chain. They refer to it as a chain of survival in the American Heart Association.
Correct.
And everyone's trained to make sure that the patient gets from the field to definitive care, and in the quickest time and with the best possible care they can receive. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for the police chief?
More of a comment. I know a lot of focus is on Palm Drive at the moment, but if you drive down Indian Canyon in the morning, and I know, again, we're dealing with city, county, Palm Springs at the southern end of Indian Canyon. But if you drive down Indian Canyon in the morning, people are using it as a superhighway. I mean, I'm retired, so I don't drive down there a lot of times early in the morning, but sometimes I'll have an early morning appointment, and people going around me like I'm standing still, going down Indian Canyon. And it is just an accident waiting to happen on that road as well. But the only time you see any officers on Indian Canyon is at the southern end, right before you go over the freeway. Sometimes there's a motorcycle cop, I think, from Palm Springs sitting there clocking cars, but that's even rare. And I've had people speed by me like I was basically standing still, going around me. Yeah.
Anyone else for the chief? No. Well, when it comes to traffic enforcement, and I sound like a broken record because I've said this many times in the 4 years I've been on this body, I believe that the best solution outside of the motoring public policing themselves is a functioning and visible law enforcement presence, which is why I've always advocated for, the expansion of the police force to where we get consistent traffic enforcement, a motor officer that's out there more often than not, or a squad car, whatever we have, that whatever resource the police department can provide that makes motorists in the city well aware that law enforcement's keeping an eye on you, and we're going to make sure that you adhere to the traffic laws of the city, the county, and the state. Now that's of course when you say I'm going to expand the police department, that's I'm trying to hit a grand slam here, and I'd be happy just to get a base hit. But hopefully now we've had Measure P pass, and down the line maybe there'll be some funding to fund that expansion. But in the meantime, since we don't have it, again, I'm going to go ahead and echo what the chief says. We need to police. Not only do we need to police ourselves when we operate motor vehicles, but the other adage is if you see something, say something. Now don't use your cell phone while you're driving because that's against the law. But if you can see on view somebody and you can get a vehicle description in and tell them what they're doing and what direction they're traveling and let the police department know, hey, they may wind up calling Palm Springs. They may wind up calling Cathedral City. They may be notifying CHP, depending on where they're going. But it's worth it if they're that big of a hazard to let law enforcement know so they can do what they can do to mitigate the hazard and, if necessary, to apprehend the offender. Do what they have to do. So, all right. We're on the soapbox a little bit today, huh?
I'm ready here. It's just a question. Well, first of all, in my opinion, making a one lane on Palm Drive going up from Pearson was the biggest mistake you ever made, because I think eventually it's going to have to be doubled again. I don't even know what their thinking was to do this. But my question is, do you have people, I see people all the time saying, they must be saying screw it, and they just go up on the right-hand side. Do you do a lot of citations or a lot of problems with that? Do you understand what my question is?
Yeah, I can't give you the number of citations, and it's one of those things where officers got to be there at the right time, right place, right time type thing and stuff. It's not one of those areas that we've posted up an officer, but it's certainly something like I'll pass on to the motor officer, and he can put it on his list and set up easy for the motor officer because he can tuck in areas where folks aren't going to see him. So. And see what they're doing, and then if he sees that, it's definitely, we've got a lot of violations with that happening here, then he'll be able to take some enforcement action on there. But I can't give you exact number of how many sites written over there.
Well, I mean, but it is happening. It does happen.
Oh, I don't, every intersection, every roadway, absolutely, there's going to be, there's some sort of, whether it's a lane violation, whether it's a right-of-way violation, a speeding violation, that type of thing. Unfortunately, every roadway, we can pinpoint, hey, this is a problem that we have at this particular area, and then it's just getting those resources out there. It would be great to have somebody out there, 24/7. I would love to have more than one dedicated traffic officer. At some point, we'll get there. I'm optimistic that I'm positively optimistic that it'll happen. It'll get there. The police department's dedicated to it. The city's dedicated to it. City council's dedicated to it. And it's not just the traffic officer that does citations. All the officers do. But again, they're wearing a number of different hats throughout their shift. But like the chairman had mentioned, if you see something, say something and let us know. Sometimes the traffic god is with us, and when you call us, we just happen to have an officer at the right location. When that car that you see that's speeding or cutting lanes or driving on their shoulder, just happens to be an officer that's down the road there and is able to wait there for a moment and catch that violator and stuff. So see something, say something, and let us know. Even if we don't catch them, then at least we know, hey, there's something going on over in that area. And we can put it on our radar, and the officers that are out there can put it on their radar while they're working.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Chief Saul? No? All right, well, thank you. And we'll definitely take what has been said and what is asked under advisement. All of it, good advice, and well said, well spoken. We will move now to the commissioner report portion of the meeting. Is there anyone that would like to go first?
Okay, because this is my last meeting. I'm stepping down after this meeting, so I just want to thank everyone. It's been great to work with everyone. Not really going away. I'm just going to focus more on my role with the Cholla Valley Disaster Preparedness Network in terms of that aspect of what I'm doing in terms of preparing citizens for the next major disasters, not if it happens, is when it will happen, and when the San Andreas fault goes, they are expecting at least a 7.0 or higher, so, and since the fault goes directly through Desert Hot Springs, we have to be prepared as citizens. So my area that I've been asked to represent is Desert Hot Springs. So I'm not going away. I'm just focusing my efforts more in that area. And so y'all will be seeing me.
What street?
Actually a map that you can look at, but it does go through. There's a hot springs when you're crossing, from what I've been told, when you're crossing that hump on Palm Drive, you're actually going over the San Andreas Fault. You never noticed it.
Well, like he says, there is a map, and
Yeah.
one map actually shows it going beneath Mission Lakes Boulevard.
No.
Yeah, and there's really nothing that shows you while you're driving on it that you're actually passing over it. But it does indeed pass right through our city. And he's from Oakland, and I'm from San Francisco. We both had the privilege of living through the Loma Prieta earthquake, and that happened to leave an indelible impression on the both of us. So, I, for one, I've enjoyed working with you, and I'm a little bit jealous that now the Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network can claim you all themselves. But we will definitely be availing ourselves of the services and that. And by the way, that's a fine volunteer service. It's all volunteer. Yeah, they don't accept pay for anything like that. And there's a cornucopia of services and classes that they provide, and we look forward to cooperating with you and with them further in the future, well, depending on what happens with my position. So we'll see what happens now. Thank you.
I'll go. I want to commend you, Commissioner Mitchell. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you never have to do anything. That we're all going to be okay. I was in the 6.0, I think, when was that, 60s, 70s, where I saw my truck going like this, and then my pool, I saw the bottom of it come up to me. I saw the bottom. I don't like that. That was not good. Supposedly where I live now, the rock is different, and it's supposed to be better for an earthquake for us. So who knows? I don't know. But I want to say thank you to everyone. God bless us all. And again, I am mourning for everything in this fire situation. And former President Carter, his mourning will be ending, and I commend the United States as to how they handled it. I was really proud of us all. And I'm glad I'm here. And I enjoy everything all the time. So, love you all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just along the same lines, it's been a pleasure working with everyone, and I think it's been a learning experience for everyone, but me especially. And I really enjoyed our time here, and also just all of the hours from staff is what I'm always thinking about every meeting. I hope we don't take too long, so everyone get home. And then also, like you were saying, the amount of presentations and things that we've gotten that are all just volunteer based is really incredible. And I've just enjoyed being exposed to all this, and then all the local resources that are available.
Okay, well, thank you for that, but we know he's leaving. We're not sure if you're leaving in that. We don't know.
Well, just depends. Something
Yeah.
I'm still thinking
Okay.
about as well. But
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and take that advisement. Thank you for that.
Well, who is taking Beth's place?
Well, District 2 is now represented by Councilmember Daniel Pitts. I think is his name. I think that's his name.
Fits, yeah.
Yeah, right,
He's my council person.
right, yeah.
There's two.
well, he was never elected in a district, so it's not like a one-to-one, if that makes sense too. But
Yeah, he
it would
represents,
either be,
yeah, he represents District 2.
Okay, Fitz represents
District 2. He does. We shifted to district elections. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clerk. It was 2020, was it 2022 we did or 2021? 2022?
2022, I believe.
Yeah, 2022. So now we're functioning on a district, and term limits as well. I'm pretty sure that's also part of the deal. Is
The
that
term
correct?
limits only apply to the mayoral
To the
position.
mayor. Thank you. Okay. So, anything else in the commission reports? If not, I'll go ahead and go. I did attend remotely. I'm grateful that they allow us to do this. The Cholla Valley Association of Governors, the regional public safety meeting. And while they didn't have anything specifically applying to Desert Hot Springs, there were a couple of interesting presentations that were made. One was let me go ahead and get my notes in order here. There was a presentation made by the Riverside Sheriff on the protection of children from predators on the internet and so forth. And I was hoping to get in touch with the officer that did that. Not so much to perform such a presentation in this forum, but to make it available for him to give this presentation to perhaps when they have a parent-teacher conference at Desert Hot Springs High School. Definitely pertinent for the children that spend so much time online to watch and, avail themselves of the government service out there to protect them, because there are some characters out there. There was also a discussion on sideshows. Now, we see the donuts, and usually when they're by themselves, that's just all they are, but sideshows present a specific hazard when people are watching them do these things, and, Commissioner Mitchell can vouch for it, and he's seen them, and so have I, and they were, the presentation consisted of a reminder of just what crimes are committed when sideshows take place and what the penalties are and how to report them and, why they should not take place.
What is
Yeah, and
what is the
A
sideshow?
could I?
Please.
A sideshow is where, how can I explain it? A car speeds at a high rate, and they put on their brakes and they just spin the car, and I think I did raise this issue maybe about 6 months ago, maybe. Well, it was in the spring that I raised the issue because I'm seeing, and even now I'm seeing more and more donuts, signs of sideshows, but they're not at the magnitude as they have in Oakland or San Francisco or in the Bay Area or probably even in LA. But we don't want it to get to that point where they become actual shows where you have hundreds of young people watching these sideshows. But I am seeing more and more donuts on the wider streets, like on Pearson, and Palm and Mission Lakes. So it is happening, but they're not sideshows in the true sense of sideshows. I think it's just
Right.
kids, probably at night when
Yeah, probably once we're all asleep.
once we're all asleep.
In the late night, maybe Chief Shaw has some edification on that, on when they actually take place and whether they're actually attended, which I think the difference between a donut and a sideshow, donuts is just a car by itself. Sideshow is when you actually have a crowd that has
And I
gathered and
I don't think we have got to that point where they're actually sideshows. I think they're just
Yeah,
donuts at
typically,
this
so
point.
typically nighttime is when these take place. A sideshow, in the sense of sideshow, it is when the group goes in, they take over an intersection, and they take over the intersection by blocking with other vehicles, and then pedestrians and folks from those vehicles stand out, basically make a circle, and then they have an opening that they open up, vehicle goes in a circle, one or two vehicles go in that circle, and then they do the donuts and stuff. So we have had some individual lone drivers out here that have done that. And yeah, so fortunately, we're not seeing it like other cities have, but Commissioner, like you were saying, it's one of those things, we want to nip it in the bud before it becomes an issue out here. It's not just traffic issues that arise from sideshows. There's a lot of other crime. There's a lot of stolen vehicles, stolen property, weapons violations that tend to follow those sideshows and the groups of people that are involved in those sideshows. So if you see something like that, please let us know. Again, we're fortunate that we haven't had that issue out here, but we've had those lone drivers that like to go out there and they think it's fun, but it's also vandalism. They're vandalizing the streets. You can go out there and you think you just put in, rubber tread from your tires on the streets. It costs $10,000 to $20,000. I know from San Diego, because they've gone after some of these individuals, and the courts have ordered restitution from these individuals that have been convicted of this, and it's upwards of $20,000 for the public works crews to come out and resurface or clean these streets and stuff. So it is something that is very expensive. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of injuries that happen from them, from cars being driven out of control and then running into those pedestrians that are watching the sideshows. So it's not fun. They might think it's cool and looks fun, but it's not fun. It's extremely dangerous, and there's some really specific repercussions, criminally wise, that will be charged to folks, that we will arrest folks and charge them with if they're caught participating in those activities.
How do they do that?
I'm sorry?
How do they do that?
Oh, you mean mechanically?
Yeah.
Well, you got to be a little bit of a daredevil. You just steer the car and just floor it, and I guess the physics of the car do it.
You're
I'm
doing
not
it
speaking
like
from
this?
experience, so, no,
Stupid.
I've had some spectacular bicycle crashes, and I left my daredevilness there. But just to backtrack briefly, Riverside County Child Exploitation Team, and the representative was an officer, Jason Polanco, which was who I was talking about before with the internet and things like that. And then we talked about the street racing, and then there is also a forthcoming good neighbor policy, a resolution to deal with the homeless problem here in the Coachella Valley. And what's being developed is the cities are going to, they're going to try to bring the cities of the Coachella Valley into a cooperative agreement to deal with the homeless situation, which, as you know, it's not a Desert Hot Springs issue, it's not a Coachella Valley issue, it's not a Riverside County issue. It really isn't really a California, it's a nationwide problem. And the only way we're going to solve it is by extending our hands and cooperating across jurisdictional lines to get things done. So they have a draft for the good neighbor policy. It hasn't been passed. The next regional meeting, I believe, is February 10th. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any progress on that particular item from the regional level. I did have one last question for Chief Shaw. I was trying to recall this from social media. There was a program where the Desert Hot Springs Police were cooperating or intending to cooperate with the Riverside County Sheriff. A registry was to be created specifically assisting elderly people that are, mentally ill, autism, that go missing, to make it easier for them to be located and brought back to a safe location. Can you expand on that at all?
There is one, and the name of the particular program is failing my memory right now, but if you go onto the Riverside County Sheriff webpage, that information is on there, and the form to fill out is on there, and then that information goes, there's a couple things that happen. That information goes to the dispatch center, so that if a call comes in, the dispatch has that notes. But part of it also is information indicating if there's a mental impairment or something like that, the individual's name, a contact information, that stays in an envelope with that individual, for instance, if they're driving, and it stays with the registration, so that they can just hand that to an officer. An officer has that information available to them right now to help guide them through if they've stopped them for a traffic offense or something like that. So it is available. Go on the Riverside County Sheriff's webpage, and that information is on there.
And I believe it's still on their website, there's a video that you can watch that takes you through all the steps on what to do and how the program works as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent. Sure you want to leave? No, I'm just. Well, and that, I think that does it for my part of the commissioner report. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Well, again, Commissioner Mitchell, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you in future cooperative endeavors with regards to disaster preparedness. It's a partnership that I'm glad came to fruition. I guess the next scheduled meeting is February the 13th, 6 p.m. in these chambers for a recording of this meeting and other meetings going. Is it still back to 2009, Mr. Soriano? Can you still go back to 2009 and see recordings of meetings, or is it been truncated somewhat?
For recordings, it's back to 2020. 2009, that's our older system.
Okay, so we'll go with 2020 from now on. To watch a recording of this meeting going back to 2020, please visit the city website at cityofdhs.org. If there's nothing else, we stand adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.